Hello. Give us a second. We're getting everything started. There we go. We're just letting everybody know that we're going live. Sorry, guys. I'm running a little late tonight. Okay. There we go. Yay. Now that I've notified everybody. I'm sorry, that's $150,000. Dang it. I don't have $150,000. What on earth am I going to do? Alex, do you have $150,000?
I do not have $150,000.
Oh, crap. That's $300,000 now. Well, so much for the Prozac budget because we owe Vince McMahon $300,000.
Okay.
You haven't followed this, but
no.
Yeah. Two independent wrestlers are being sued $150,000 for copyright infringement for using this hand sign.
Oh, wow.
Never mind the fact that this hand sign existed before people that Vince McMahon worked with used it. It's like a Turkish wolf. But he is suing two young independent wrestlers $150,000 each for flashing this.
Oh my gosh.
Or at least he's suing them, but he put a cease and desist order on them for doing it. So it's just like
there's the C&D.
Yes, so much, but I mean they've been making bank off of it because they already did new T-shirts saying cease desist under the exact same stuff.
Yeah.
So. Oh, and Happy New Year, Robin.
What?
I wish we were having a happy day, but that was last week.
That was last week.
And now we have to dredge through the shit.
Yes, back into the mud.
Yes. I was this close also to adding a story tonight, but my panel has made it clear that I'm biased on the matter and I probably shouldn't do it. So... Well, because the guy got a resolution today.
Oh, you're talking about the
so people
magic guy, right? The magic guy.
So to bring people up to speed, I've been following the unsleeved media situation where he got banned for life without appeal for basically not having the same frame of thought as everybody else. By liking and sharing some Pepe memes and all that fun stuff. And he actually has recently gone to the lengths of he's going to basically showing the double standards of Wizards of the Coast, so much so that he actually got emailed a bunch of Magic the Gathering judges that all have sexual offenses on their criminal record.
Ooh.
And we're talking recent ones. And he's unveiled 12 guys, Alex. 12 guys who are high-tier judges, some of which are high-tier judges. And one of which actually was absolutely sickening. I'm not recording the podcast right now, so I can talk about it. But one of them was sick enough that he actually put a camera in a power outlet in the girls' bathroom of the local game store he owned.
Oh, jeez.
So he had about 11,000... images of women ranging in all ages.
Shit.
And he burned these things to DVDs and yeah, this guy's a high tier Magic judge. Just celebrate. I believe he was one of the ones that celebrated his 5th year anniversary with the company. Well, with the Magic Judge Association, because Wizards of the Coast isn't associated with their judges.
Mhm.
But today he actually got some good news because Wizards of the Coast actually, well, not Wizards, but WPN, the Magic Judge Association, just put out a statement saying, yes, we didn't do background checks before, but now we will require it. If you wish to judge at local conventions, at local game stores, all that stuff, you have to submit yourself to a background check.
Seems wise. Yeah.
Yes, especially when he found 12, and I'm sorry to say this to all the people who are going to be so mad that he brought this up, but he was right. He found 12 that we know of. And if you find 12, then you actually have to like do the math and magnify it a little bit, because you're finding the 1%, the 5% of the population that has this problem. You're not necessarily finding them all. And so at that point, yeah, that happened. And I was going to bring it up tonight, but I've talked to my panel numerous times about bringing this stuff up, because the reason that he got banned is a horrible, horrible precedent to be set that any other company could justify. But I may just do a video of my own on that. Who's been to Japan? I have no idea. Have I been to Japan?
Nope, you've never been to Japan.
Did I black out again?
No, you didn't.
No, I haven't been to Japan recently. I don't know why you think I've been to Japan, or why Alex has been to Japan.
Just a general question. Probably ask it. She's probably been to Japan.
Have you been to Japan, Robin? How about you answer your own question? I submit, sir, that you should have to answer your own question. And before you don't worry about the answer or whatever, we're not recording right now. We're just live. We're getting ready to record. So this is definitely not something we're covering tonight. We are going to talk about some depressing things and also some outright silly things. I feel that's the way to counter tonight, because we have some horrible, horrible things to talk about, and they're getting talked about at the very beginning, and then we're just ending the night on silly.
There it is.
That's the way to end this out, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we just end out on the silly. Because we did have things like CES happen, and some interesting things that got announced there.
By the way, sorry, I gotta just show this, because when you showed the hand sign, that just made me think of this. So here's one more person they gotta sue. They gotta sue this anime now.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but they also need to sue the Turkish mafia, because the Turkish mafia, I think, has been using it for many, 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 many years. Good luck with that there, Vince. Yeah, like Stone Cold Steve Austin suing people for using the middle finger. Wait, that's my copyrighted property.
I'll just do the whole show with this image on. I'm kidding.
Then we'll owe more money.
Yeah.
Yes, this is actually something. So if you haven't watched these at all, the Run of the Ropes podcast has been making this joke for a while, ever since the cease and desist actually went out, where we'd accidentally flip ourselves that and go, oh, damn it, Adam, you know not to do that. It's another $150,000 we owe Vince now. Damn it, David Vito. And we'll just panic. You're like, dang it, we need to pay him $150,000 now. I swear, in order to counter this whole thing, maybe it'll end with I think somewhere I actually have like a bison dollar from like the McDonald's meals for the Street Fighter movie, the live action movie, and it's for like $1 million. So she's like, all right, Vince, here's $1 million. This isn't real money. It's a bison dollar. And as we all know, one bison dollar is worth 5 British pounds. But it would have fun. It would be fun to have a meet and greet there. Why not have a meet and greet here? Why do we have to pay the extra thousands of dollars?
Because then we can ride the Evangelion bullet train.
So Aldo can ride the bullet train?
Yes.
That's still thousands of dollars, and that's one person riding the bullet train.
Well, not just Aldo. We'll all ride the train.
Jeez. No.
And we'll see the Gundam museums and
That's the only thing I'm gonna want to do. Is like, oh, I'll just sit back in the hotel room the rest of the time, and then the day that we go to the Gundam museum, I'm like, Gundam museum time, and then I'm done. I'm not doing anything else. But stay away from forests. Oh, Robin. Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
That's what we're talking about tonight. I mean, it's my fault.
So the Prozac budget is being sponsored by Robin's Reviews World tonight. She will be paying for all. I don't know yet, but I'm assuming, Robin, you're a she, or it could be a guy too.
Yeah.
You're going to be paying for all the Prozac that we all need, and trust me, when Romney gets into one of his stints, he needs a lot of Prozac. It's the only way we keep him off the pillow, man. It's the only way.
Stay away from forests unless you're going camping at the base of Mount Fuji. In which case, go to forests. Because I'm watching an anime about camping right now. Adam, don't add me. I know you're not an outdoorsy person.
Camping is overrated.
Yeah, kind of.
This is coming from the guy who has the camping family.
That's true. I haven't been camping in years. Unless you
haven't.
Well, unless you count the time I crashed on the floor during Anime Bonsai. Because
I count that.
Because, well, there's the story. Like a few years ago, right before, like a couple of years, this is like 2015, right before Anime Bonsai, like a week before, I got a cold, and it didn't look like I was getting any better. Like the day before the convention, it didn't look like I was any better. So I just, I guess I can't make this con. I'm just gonna cancel my hotel room. Then I started feeling better the next day, and I'm like, okay, I'll go up for the weekend. So luckily,
crap! You know what, Robin? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but Robin just reminded me of something that I have forgotten to do like 10 times now. And I am going to fix this right here and now and send you an email really quick, Alex. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I am fixing this right now because every day, I'm like, I need to send this thing out to him. I need to get it out there, and I always forget. So let me get it out to you because this was supposed to be the 13th day of anime for you. And then it didn't happen. Okay, there we go. I'm sending it.
All right.
Yay! Thank you, Robin, for letting me know. And we already chatted about the new Star Wars movie.
Yeah, we did. We had a whole podcast on it.
We did. I want to say that we were different from everybody else, but I think we came down like everybody else did. And also, good news, Romney. Robin has volunteered to pay for the Prozac budget tonight, so you can go nuts.
I'm not sure where to take that joke. I got kind of caught off
Prozac
guard.
button. We were giving Robin a little bit of a hard time, just like, oh, you brought up something that we're talking about tonight. Now you volunteered to pay for the Prozac budget for the night. And I was saying, well, and you're going to be paying a lot because Romney, man, it's all we can do to keep him away from the pillow.
Yeah, but I've mellowed out quite considerably.
Yeah,
things considered.
All right. So, okay, I'm seeing the link, but Adam, I'm gonna have a bit of bad news. I'm probably not going to talk about it because it's a fan-made work, and I really don't want to critique fan work.
But that's exactly what I told you it is.
You didn't tell me it was a fan work. You just told me it was some kind of... You didn't tell me that. You said it was just some kind of Star Wars anime.
I did tell you that. It's a fan work.
Well, yeah, but you didn't tell me that.
I did tell you that. You just weren't listening that day.
You didn't tell me. I was listening.
Uh-huh. That excuse will only get you so far, sir. Okay, so yeah, we're talking about a bunch of really depressing stuff. Sorry. But hey, look on the bright side because we're ending on the silly. I think that's the way to counter this out. Thankfully, there aren't too many updates that we need to take care of. Yeah. What about new video games? The best of the best. 2018 ain't over yet. 2018 is just barely beginning. There have been no games. Like, I think all of the release dates for January are like late January. So at that point, awesome, because Dragon Ball FighterZ and Dissidia. Can't forget Dissidia. Somebody actually brought that up to me. It was like, you guys talked about Dragon Ball FighterZ a lot. You need to talk about Dissidia. Dissidia is happening. Okay, Dissidia.
It is happening.
We've talked about it. Are you interested in it at all, or?
Well, I did enjoy the 2 PSP games. I played them on my Vita, so it is on my radar. It's just a case of I don't have the large amounts of money that Square is asking for it.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I actually have played Dissidia. I thought I'd play Duodecim, but no, it actually turns out I haven't yet. I have it, but I just haven't played it. But I am excited for NT, just to see what they do with it. I am happy that Noctis is going to make his way in, because a lot of people were apparently asking me that a while back. It's like, are you excited about Noctis going to Dissidia and Tekken? Like, well, I don't play Tekken, so I don't know.
Honestly, the Tekken announcement still baffles me, because you think he would be a better fit for something like Soul Calibur because of the weapons. I mean, I can understand why, because, well, there isn't a Soul Calibur game, and they don't want to wait.
That's kind of how I answered, Don. So, are you excited about Noctis going to Tekken? I'm like, you mean Soul Calibur? No, Tekken. No, Soul Calibur. He has a weapon. He would go to Soul Calibur, not to Tekken. And no,
actually,
it's an announcement for Tekken.
Well, yeah. Plus the rebuttal, Yoshimitsu. Yoshimitsu is also in Tekken.
Right. Well, he's still an active member of the Tekken roster?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Then I'll give you that.
So yeah, even the whole, but he has a weapon, Yoshimitsu. Plus, they literally fight a frickin' bear. I mean, honestly, the game stopped caring about being a serious fighter. Well,
or the ripoff of I can't remember the guy's name, but it's the Japanese, like the series happened, and then Japanese wrestling decided to mimic it with the dude with the tiger head, and King is supposed to be a reference to that.
Oh, I think you're thinking of Tiger Mask, which
Tiger
wasn't
Mask.
Really. Yeah, because that Tiger Mask comes from the anime series, and then the anime series became popular. That Japan Pro Wrestling licensed the character from the original creators, and thus we have. I think we're on like the 3rd Tiger Mask wrestler now, because the mantle has changed hands a number of times.
Yes, because of the popularity, they still do it. But I believe King is supposed to be a Tekken reference or an allusion to that.
Yeah, I believe it. I mean, it's not that surprising considering that you have Jushin Liger as a wrestler as well, and that it was inspired by a mecha anime. I mean, just wait until like down the road you have someone trying to be a wrestler using the RX-78.
And now my inner wrestling geek wants to go. I'm sorry, it's Jushin Thunder Liger. Get it right.
Yeah, but again, give it time. You're gonna get a wrestler at some point whose their motif is the RX-78 at some point, or the Zaku 2.
That would be awesome. Can he be pink?
Given what the wrestlers wear, there probably would be no objections.
If there's going to be a Zaku, I want him to have a female manager that is a pink Zaku. Because Lacus Klein.
Lacus Klein. Senior, I guess.
Lacus Klein Senior. Because, it's based off in the future. All right, we are actually overdue, so let's go ahead and get things started.
Sound speed.
Here we go, everybody. We're not going to have Brenton tonight, right?
No.
Yeah, he said he couldn't make it.
Yeah, that's right. Yep, it's just going to be the 3 of us. So, here we go. 3, 2, 1. These pre-show moments are amazing for all of you guys, because we can have some fun. All right. Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to Geek News, Reviews, and Opinions, the podcast where we talk the week's events in Geek for Friday night, January 12th, 2018. I am your host, Adam Mickelson. I hope everybody's had an awesome week so far. I know that there's been a lot of ups and downs for people. Some people are still feeling the holiday burnout, as well as getting back to everyday normal life throughout the year. I feel for you guys, and that's why we do this podcast, so that we can make things just a tad better for you throughout the week. And of course, I'm being joined by my panel of fellow YouTubers, fellow awesome guys, fellow content creators, fellow dudes in general, geeks, one and all. And let's go ahead and start things off with Alex, the Shadow Blazer, who has decided to join us from out of the shadows, out of the safe embrace of his card Captor Sakura and his Black Rose. I was actually going to tell you, what game was I playing? And they actually had a character that was named Black Rose, and it was I think it was WoW, and it was like a female warrior, and they just did Black Rose.
That's cute.
Yeah, I thought you'd like that. So how are you doing, Alex?
I'm doing pretty well, all things considered, I guess.
Very cool. And we're also being joined by Stephen Romney of Studio Ghost Utah of From the Shelf, Rhapsody in Cinema. I almost said it, Romney. Sorry. Rhapsody in Cinema, Monster Clash, and, well, whatever you want to do. Romney, how you doing?
Well, doing pretty good. This has been an okay week. The downside, my Achilles tendon decided to act up. But on the upside, I was able to pay off the last of my student loans. So that is one less sword of Damocles hanging over my head.
Woo!
If I had a soundboard right now, I would definitely be playing like I would find a way to be able to do "You're the best around." Maybe I'll throw it in when I edit the podcast together, and then we'll get taken down.
Just use the Chrono Trigger celebration music.
Well, that just
Chrono Trigger celebration. Oh, da 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 da. No, he deserves more than that.
Yeah, I think the last thing we need is to have the show taken down by a crane kick, because we wouldn't be able to sweep the leg.
No, we really wouldn't. And actually, I'm very happy to be able to start things off on a positive note, because the first little bit of tonight's podcast is going to be covering stuff that happened during our absence, and it's not good. In fact, this was one of them in particular was a point of contention, at least on our independent thread, when we talk about bringing these stories into the podcast. And also, I should probably acknowledge that we do have a live chat tonight, and welcome live chat. We appreciate you guys being here to join in on the fun. But like I said, these are things that happened during our absence, and we wish they hadn't have happened, and they are controversial. Well, one of them is controversial. The other one is very clean cut on how it goes. But let's go ahead and start things off with the oldest story. I want to say that this broke I think it was a couple of days after we had recorded our Last Jedi video, which was technically our last stuff for the year. And it was basically that we've reported on swatting on the channel before. It's not fun. It's, in fact, downright frustrating that it happens to people, and it doesn't get better. But this time it reached a whole new low, as we've now officially had our first fatality because of swatting. So I'm not going to worry too much about the details, because you guys can get that online. But simply put, two guys on Twitter were having a feud. Both were Call of Duty players. We're having a massive feud, and things escalated to the point where one of them was going to swat the other. The downside is that the address that they had when they doxed the other guy, because I don't think it was given in the Twitter conversation, when they doxed him, it wasn't his opponent in particular. It was an innocent bystander by the name of Andrew Finch and his family's house. So to those who don't know what swatting is, basically it's where a hostage situation, a bomb threat, or something like that gets called in at a local home in a neighborhood, and police have no choice but to respond with the most deadly force that they can provide. And I don't mean that literally, like the most deadly force that they can provide. They respond with the SWAT team. Okay. They come in, they do their business, they make things insane for hours, if not days, for these people and their way of life. Like, you guys have seen Twitch videos where you've seen them get apprehended and the drug dogs get brought in, everything gets brought in to be able to handle this situation. So the SWAT team got ready to go, and they went out to this guy's house, and when he answered the door, they had to respond accordingly. Unfortunately, that also meant that one of the officers, I believe that the testimony is, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, he saw hostile intent from the man at the door, and this was a sniper and took his shot to protect his fellow officer.
Yeah, to more or less elaborate on what happened, the officers came to the home of Andrew Finch. He had his hands raised, and as it was disclosed in the police report, and as Leonard French also clarified in his video detailing the full story, Andrew Finch had his hands raised and then quickly brought them down to his waist, probably to adjust his shorts, and then brought them back up. And the person who basically had
took that as a hostile action.
Yeah, because he assumed, and a lot of people think, oh, it's because they're murderers. No, cops have to make those split-second decisions that are life or death. And if you're already assuming that there's a violent situation, if someone goes from having their hands raised to quickly bringing them down and bringing them back up, assume they're going for a weapon. And so it was unfortunate, but the cop was acting in accordance with his training.
Exactly. And so I know a lot of personalities on Twitter and Facebook and a number of other social media. I think even the media has made clear that they show massive distaste for how the officer reacted. But here's where the story is going to get a little complicated. I side with the officer. The reason I side with the officer is I have police in my family. And in those kinds of situations, as Romney put, you have to expect anything happening. He was going down to, as Romney put, he was going down to bring his shorts up kind of thing. The officer can't assume that. The officer has to immediately assume that, no, he is reaching for a piece in his shorts to then shoot the officer right in front of him before the officer has time to react. And so at that point, it's more that he was trying to save his coworker, his fellow officer, and that's how things went down. Now, we can all speak about this in the aftermath of it, and we can all have our judgments. This was a judgment call in the spur of the moment. This guy responded with what his training had taught him to do. And I know that since we've had a couple of statements, both from the local police that did this in Wichita, but also other police agencies throughout the country basically saying, yeah, maybe we'll alter our police academy courses to have a little bit more judgment when it comes to this stuff. Because that's the focus that a lot of personalities tend to take on the matter, is that the police officer acted wrong, not necessarily why he was there to begin with. Thankfully, the Geek community kind of responded in kind, and I believe the ones that actually followed it stank both of them pretty much out. I know that I actually responded that night saying that my thoughts and prayers went to the family of Andrew Finch, especially after a lot of the issues that their family has had just trying to get his body back from I think it was county that was holding him. And we've also had a little bit of positive news because we can now officially report, or at least this was, I think, put in last week, or yes, on December 28th, that Tyler Barris had since been arrested in Los Angeles. And I believe he was one of the guys, wasn't he? He was the guy that made the SWAT call.
Yes, because to kind of explain, it wasn't that either one of the COD players specifically did the swatting. It's that one of them hired someone who self-identified as a professional swatter. So someone who basically would actually make the call, who would actually escalate the situation, even went so far, didn't call 911, spoofed his number, called a local dispatch office that then patched it through to the officers. Yeah. And so the person that was arrested is not either one of the YouTubers that started this mess. It was specifically the person who did the swatting, the person who actually called, or at least as is the case here, the person who was accused of actually placing the call to the Kansas City Police Department, to the Wichita Police Department, and starting the whole thing off. And that is what Tyler Barris is charged with. The charges specifically are involuntary manslaughter, and the other charge is, involuntary manslaughter and giving false alarm and interference with law enforcement. So he's been hit with 3 charges in Los Angeles County Jail, and there's also the talks of possibility of him being extradited to Kansas to await trial as well, as a warrant has been filed by Los Angeles County prosecutors. It's a fugitive from justice warrant saying that he was charged on December 29th in Kansas with that same crime.
Yep. So we've gotten at least some kind of action in regards to this. It's not, unfortunately, it's not the official COD players. It's a guy that one of them hired to do the swatting. So at that point, he is being charged with involuntary manslaughter, and the other two charges, I believe he's already had his first court appearance, but it was more to handle the extradition.
And it was to set bail, which the bond is currently set at $500,000 is the bond that is set.
So right now, this is what we have for the moment in the Andrew Finch case. And I'll just go ahead and open things up to the panel. I know, like, my thoughts as soon as I saw this, I was disgusted immediately. I'll go into mine a little bit more in detail later, but my response, and you guys can see it on Twitter, was to say my thoughts and prayers go out to the family of Andrew Finch. For being caught in a pointless Twitter. I believe the word I used was pointless Twitter feud. Because the bottom line is that I know COD gets serious for them COD players, but this was too far. This was way too far. Swatting alone is way too far, because here's the thing. When they actually realize that there is no danger in this area, it's actually a waste of their time and city dollars because they gotta pay these guys. They gotta do the whole 9 yards with this whole situation. So all you're really doing is you're hurting the police department. You're hurting the city that police department represents. That's who you're hurting. You're not necessarily hurting the guy, because the guy will get over it. The guy just, might have a distrust for the police right after the bat. So let's go ahead and start things off with Stephen Romney. What was your thoughts as this situation unfolded? I know that you were the one that brought us the Leonard French video kind of detailing all of this case as it stands up to date.
Yes, and basically when I first heard it, it's disheartening. It's honestly, I consider the whole thing pathetic, considering that this whole dispute that got an innocent man killed was over $1. $1 frickin' dollar.
Yep.
I mean, there comes a time where I'm just like, yes, I understand people get really into gaming, but seriously, people, it is just a game. It is not worth going to this extreme level of bullshit for some. And honestly, it's stuff like this. This is why I don't play shooters. It's because of this attitude that permeates all these communities. It's because it's bullshit, plain and simple.
It's definitely one of my main reasons too. Like the community that comes around shooters. With a few exceptions. I know I've met a few people that are in the Team Fortress community, and they aren't this bad. But when we're talking Call of Duty, when we're talking, because Battlefield, you guys have it too. I've heard Battlefront has had it since 2015.
And Counter-Strike, especially with
Counter-Strike, CSGO, they have it definitely. The ones that I always find that are the outliers in this are like Team Fortress. I know the Overwatch community, they work very, very hard not to have this. And when they start seeing that poison coming into their community, they get rid of it damn quick.
Yeah, and honestly, one thing I will say is I understand that a lot of people are probably frustrated that the two YouTubers specifically aren't being charged, especially considering that they tried to distance themselves from it, saying, "Oh, we're not at fault for getting him killed." Yeah, except it's because of your bullshit that an innocent man got killed, because they tried to do the whole, blame the cops. The cops wouldn't have been there if you guys kept your little pissing match, away from getting to that point. And so honestly,
and here's the thing, like Tyler Barris may have been the guy to put in the call, but this is one of those things where I honestly want, I kind of hope that this gets escalated in some way. It won't, but this should be kind of beyond a local matter. This should be a federal matter, so it spans state lines. And at that point, I think that Twitter should be immediately subpoenaed for evidence. Like, they should be able to get the chat conversations, get these guys' actual names, get them both charged. And I also have no problem putting Twitter in there as an accessory after the fact, because this is one of those things that should be facilitated by you. Like, because here's the thing. A lot of swatting incidents have happened via Twitter, have happened via Facebook. And if you don't think maybe after one, they're not necessarily liable, but they should be taking steps to make sure that doesn't happen. Swatting is a regular thing. And I don't know how many times I've actually heard social media getting approached by people saying, what are you going to do about the swatting problem? And Twitter is one of those few that actually has a strict silence on anything in that regard. And so at that point, I have no problem saying that, yes, I think Twitter's partially responsible because they should have been like their moderator should have stepped in the second that they saw anything on this matter. They should have outed these guys outright and said, no, these are not acceptable members of our community. Here is all of your information, officer, and moved on their way. Am I expecting somebody to go to jail for this on Twitter? No, I'm expecting them to deal out hard. But I'm also expecting the Twitter feuders to be able to do that. Like the one I want to see actually get charged and probably go to jail for it is Tyler Barris. I wouldn't mind if the YouTuber or the Call of Duty players were also at least doing some time in some kind of a facility for accessory.
Yeah, and that is the frustrating thing. Now, I wouldn't go so far like trying to basically indict Twitter because we have something called safe harbor laws. And so it's very much a case where that's more or less a very tight thing to balance, where you've got the case of, okay, surrendering information without a warrant. That means, okay, it's a whole separate can of worms. But
way I'm saying is like they get a warrant, they get a subpoena for that information.
Yeah, like if they're subpoenaed by the prosecutors for the identities of those COD players, then yes, by all means, they should surrender that information, provided that they are actually given a subpoena, provided that there is an actual warrant issued. And I'm with you. I believe that those two COD players should be charged with accessory after the fact, at the very least, given that their dispute is what prompted it. And again, the gall that, I don't know which one it was, but the gall that one of them literally said, like, I didn't get a man killed, it was the cops' fault. Like, yeah, no, you carry as much blame. Your little pissing match got an innocent man killed, and you should face the consequences.
Well, wasn't it Tyler's messages who he was saying that? I thought that was the guy who actually made the call, who was saying, "Oh, I didn't get the man killed."
Well, might have been. I may be misremembering things, but point being, the fact that anyone would try to defend what happened using that as an argument, no. That's stupid. And a lot of people, because here's the thing, people, it's not as simple as, oh, cops should just train not to shoot. No, they have to make these life or death split-second decisions. This is something that and the reason why I come on that I'm in the cops' corner in this case, not just because, oh, I'm a martial artist and I know about like threat assessment. It's also because this is something the film department at Slick drills us on incessantly whenever we're doing a shoot using fake weapons, is to move slowly, cooperate with the police officer, so that way you don't get killed.
Yeah, and not only that, just again, these kinds of situations that the SWAT get brought into are nightmare scenarios. Like I've heard stories, and the people that I know within family, they've not done SWAT. Like SWAT is that nightmare scenario that you're devoted to the job as far as they are concerned. Like, because that's all you deal with all the time is these nightmare scenarios. I mean, anything can look like a drug den. Anything can look like child or sex trafficking. They have to be prepared for the absolute worst. And the fact that everybody in there, including the kids, this is the sad reality, guys, including the kids, are armed and dangerous. Okay. So, it's thankful that we've never had that story of like police officer guns down child, because then at that point we have truckloads of gray into that situation. And then you're going to hear this in a trial. And then the kid pulled out a Magnum and pointed it at me.
Yeah. And so to kind of summarize my point, it's good that at least someone is being brought to justice, that we're having someone being taken to task and made to answer. And I just double checked, according to an update on the news site, which is the ABC affiliate for Kentucky, for Kansas. Apparently, Tyler Barris has been brought to Wichita to stand trial.
Very good. Okay.
That update came out yesterday. And so, to summarize my point, at least someone is facing justice for this. But that's the
other thing I wanted to, is that I wanted this kid to be extradited. I wanted him to have to face the Finch family directly, kind of thing. I like, because the Finch family is going to be watching that trial. They have a right to be able to see their, as far as I'm concerned, their husband, father, son's murderer, kind of thing. And for all the people who can maybe make the claim of like, no, the cop was the one. No, the cop was walking into a hostile situation, and it doesn't get good at those places.
Yes.
He was doing what he made a judgment call. Was it the best one? No, but I'm not necessarily saying he's in the wrong.
Yeah,
because he wouldn't have been necessary if the call hadn't been made.
Yeah. And to kind of summarize, it's good that at least someone is facing justice. My frustration is that the two COD players that started this need to be taken to task as well. Yep. Like, if not brought to justice in our court system, they should at least get kicked off the servers, because that conduct is deplorable.
Yeah, this is why in a lot of cases I'm really hoping that the prosecutor in Wichita who is going to be doing this, he subpoenas that information from Twitter. And if Twitter fights, well, then at that point, I have no problem with that prosecutor getting getting tough on Twitter, kind of thing. Alex, we kind of brushed over you on this one. What are your thoughts on the first fatality in swatting?
Okay, gonna have a lot to say here, so bear with me. Unfortunately, this is a pretty big, colossal failure, pretty much in a domino sense on just about every front here. First of all, I can't say I totally agree with you guys. I understand you wanting to show a little sympathy towards the police officer, fair enough, and I get it, SWAT, it is the most extreme circumstances, but at the same time, I do think this is unfortunately another case of a cop with too much of an itchy trigger finger. I know snap judgment calls, they get made, and they don't always get made wisely. I'm not saying the cop maliciously did it, but I think it was a overreaction to a situation. SWAT, yes, I get it. There is the threat somebody could potentially pull out a piece and start firing, but they are SWAT and they are covered in head to toe in really heavy tactical gear. Not to mention they have weapons of way stronger caliber.
The guy at the door isn't.
Yes, the guy at the door, he's just, given this was night, I'm sure he's wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt probably. And, it's him versus a whole team of guys heavily armed, heavily armored to the head to toe here. So, and how do you know that it is indeed the assailant, the perpetrator, and not somebody being sent out like a hostage as a potential human shield? That's the kind of thing you need to be wary of. So there definitely needs to be some accountability there. I'll leave that to, and look, this going down there is a whole nother can of worms regarding police militarization and so on and so forth. So I'm not going to go further on that. Regarding the guy who actually made the SWAT call himself, what you guys haven't mentioned yet is the stupid thing is this guy has already been allegedly accused in calling in a bomb threat on the FCC during the net neutrality thing.
Was it the same guy?
Allegedly, I should say, allegedly.
Then my problem's solved because the feds are going to get called in.
Yeah, so he allegedly did that. He allegedly called in, I can't remember. It was during a MLG. It was an MLG thing. He called in a threat on an MLG event. So to the fact that, and this is known, so I don't know how on earth that this guy wasn't already on everybody's radar at this point, police, state, federal, whatever. The fact that he's already made threatening calls like this in the past. Actually, I don't think allegedly. I think he actually was convicted of these said threat calls. So I'd have to go back and research that again, but I remember reading that. So I think he was actually convicted. So not even alleged. So the fact that he was able to do this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I think involuntary manslaughter is way too light.
I think it's the most that they can nail him for.
I don't know. I think the prosecutors could have tried to get a little more aggressive. I know first degree murder, probably pushing it way too hard. I still think second degree murder should have been in the cards here.
Maybe, no. I completely agree with you.
I completely agree. I mean, this is my flimsy knowledge of of the law here, so I don't know. Maybe voluntary manslaughter is the best that they can
Well,
truly get them on. But that is too light. I looked it up. It is technically judge's discretion, but it does come with a minimum 12 months in prison or a hefty fine.
No, that's not what I was actually going to say. Is like the statutes for what constitutes murder, what constitutes manslaughter, can vary from city to city to state to state. You know, some of them have very clear. Like the best example that I know of is like New York has a very clear different manslaughter guideline, especially like in terms of like vehicular manslaughter compared to say like where we live, which is Utah. Okay. We probably have stricter statutes in what actually can constitute as a charge for that than say New York can, or say Kansas can. So at that point, that's why I'm saying like, I think this is the best that he could get the guy on, given the evidence that he has. Now, this is the difference between state, you know, local authorities and federal authorities. Is like federal authorities, if they have this amount of evidence, they can do stuff. And a federal crime is far worse than a state crime. Okay. Like even like state manslaughter and federal manslaughter are two completely different puppies, because one of them, federal alone, like mandates jail time. You can't even get out of it. It mandates it. So at that point, I'm thinking that's what this guy got it for, and he wants to collect more evidence. And as soon as he has the evidence, then we'd probably get a stiffer charge.
Yeah. Looking at the way the degrees are arranged, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page discussing it. Looking at it, involuntary manslaughter does seem to be the closest charge that they could be hit, because with voluntary manslaughter, which is sometimes referred to as a crime of passion, is any intentional killing that involves no prior intent to kill and which was committed under such circumstances that would cause a reasonable person to become emotionally or mentally disturbed. Voluntary manslaughter, which is a killing that stems from a lack of intention to cause death, but involving an intentional or negligent act leading to death.
Yeah.
Sounds a lot like voluntary. You said that was voluntary manslaughter?
That's
the last one, yeah.
Involuntary. Okay.
Yeah.
Involuntary.
So at that point, like, and we're going to get off this, guys, I promise, because we've got another one that's worse. But yeah, basically, I think this is the most that the prosecutor could get him on. And then at that point, as soon as he has him here, he's going to gather up evidence, and he's probably going to work with the feds too, because now that there are federal crime, are you saying like the most recent net neutrality stuff, Alex, that he got busted for?
Yeah. Okay. When the FCC had the vote on net neutrality. He called it a bomb threat. So there you go.
If this asshole, and I have no problem calling him that, if this scumbag got involved in that, that's federal crime. So already the feds can claim jurisdiction in that, and they can probably work with the local prosecutor. And as soon as the prosecutor's done, then they get to have him. And then at that point, we're probably going to have more evidence show up, because if the local prosecutor can't subpoena Twitter, I'm pretty sure the feds can find a way.
Yeah. Plus, that ultimately would depend on whether or not an attorney general would actually want to press the case, because that's ultimately what it would come down to. Because Barris is being charged and tried in Wichita, in Kansas. And so if an attorney general who works on a federal level does want to indict Barris on the bomb threat on the FCC, he could. But that's the case of, are they actually wanting to devote the time and attention it takes to build a case against a person, especially when there isn't as much evidence as there is for this swatting incident?
Yeah, well, and the other thing too that can benefit the feds in this regard is that if they handle the local trial first, and he gets, let's just say for the sake of argument, he gets convicted, federal trial is going to be so much easier on the attorney general to be able to do, because they already have the conviction, and they can say, well, he's already done this. We already have all this evidence connecting him. Yeah, he did this kind of thing. And so they've got basically a win in the pocket kind of thing. At that point, things can just get, worse for Barris. And I think the way that it works is that once the feds step in, you have to do your federal sentence first. And then this does not run concurrently. Then you do your local one. So at that point, if he gets sentenced to like 5 years, let's just say 5 years in a federal correction facility, and he gets sentenced to 10 years in a local correction facility, he has to do the 5 first. They don't count concurrently. He has to do the 5 first, and then he does the 10. That's the way it works. So I hope that this guy gets I have no problem saying this, I hope this guy gets the book thrown at him. And in the meantime, again, my thoughts and prayers go to the family of Andrew Finch, especially since it sounds to me like they're already having some issues of their own with local authorities trying to get Andrew Finch's body back so that they can then give him a proper burial. So moving on, I wish things got better, but there was another story and I wanted to not talk about this, but we have to. So there's this guy by the name of Logan Paul. I don't know. Maybe you've heard of him. He's done some things on YouTube recently. Okay, we'll give more of a timeline in that regard, and Alex might actually have to clarify some stuff for me. So, because the only thing I'm not sure about is the actual reason they went there to do the video in Japan in the forest. That was the original intent.
Well, the whole thing was the whole thing was a trip to Japan vlog. So it goes a little deeper than just
speaking of going to Japan.
Yeah, so it goes a little deeper than just simply going to the forest, which is already pretty infamous. It's the complete showing of disrespect and being one of those douchebag asshole American tourists that people hate. So, and the forest is really what kind of set people off and made a lot of people very angry.
And in particular, this is the, if I murder this, I'm sorry, but it's the Aokigahara forest?
Yep, Aokigahara.
Okay, that's how you say it. Also commonly known as the suicide forest is where they went. So go on, Alex, sorry.
So yeah, Logan Paul, who's, a pretty, very, very prominent YouTube vlogger, well over 1 million subscribers, a huge following, started making his daily vlogs from Japan, cutting them, editing them, uploading them with his team, going around Japan, all around being a complete asshole and making himself look like a complete jackass. Then to top everything off, they went to this forest, a forest that is unfortunately very infamous because a lot of people unfortunately go there to take their own lives and kill themselves. It's so bad that the Japanese government has erected signs in the forest urging people to please not do that and please seek professional help if you are feeling suicidal there. So they went to the forest and just so happened they came across a dead body.
Yes, I don't think we've ever gotten the identity of this guy, and thankfully we shouldn't. But they came across the body. They filmed it. They filmed their reaction of it. They filmed I think they even did a post reaction, didn't they? So they did a reaction while at the body. And then they did a post reaction later while the guide was calling the police.
Yeah.
To report the body.
And keep in mind, this is not like a live tour or anything. This is not something being done live. This was pre-recorded, pre-arranged, pre-planned, minus the finding the body. Some people still are insisting it's fake, but the Pauls have never said it was fake.
It doesn't matter. I don't care if it's fake or not. Yeah. This is inappropriate material because eventually what Alex is going to say is that this asshole uploaded it, got views for it, got likes. He should have gotten way more dislikes. He should have gotten reported to YouTube right off the bat. He should have had that video taken down instantly and had 2 strikes put on his damn account. But no, this asshole, whether it was fake or not, he put this shit up on his channel.
Yeah.
I'm not usually cussing guy, but this is the pinnacle of stupid on YouTube this year.
They had all the time in the world to think about it, to edit it, to post it, to make the thumbnail. By the way, the thumbnail's clickbaity as hell to draw the viewers in.
Yeah.
To make that title, put it on YouTube, and of course, it went because Logan Paul's got that kind of following. It's instant night overhit viral success, #1 on the trending tab on YouTube.
With his whopping 15 million subscribers, obviously this was seen by a lot of people. And was probably, I think to this day, Twitter is still talking about Logan Paul, even though whatever solutions or finality has been handed out, they're still talking about it. He also posted up the other videos too, didn't he? Where he was being an asshole in Japan.
Oh yeah, all those videos were up.
So our article doesn't clarify on this. How long was the video up before he did? And here's the thing too, YouTube should have taken action on this. He took action.
Yeah, he took it down after the backlash came. And I don't recall how long it was up. It was up a good few days, though.
Yeah.
It was,
Go ahead.
According to this, it says that it says that he removed the video from a channel a day after he posted it, and then uploaded a re-edit of it. But that still didn't really solve the problem, and so
just enough time for him to get his paycheck out of it.
Yep.
Okay, YouTube. Here's a way to punish him. Don't pay him for that.
Even if they demonetize, you know what? It doesn't matter, because even if they demonetized this video and they joked that the video would probably be demonetized or that they wouldn't monetize it anyway, he still got his merch store. He still got his sponsor.
He made bank. The bottom line is that for this incident, he made bank. He because I don't know Logan Paul off the top of my head. Like, I'm not a subscriber. I can already tell you, given some of the other content that I watched before this whole incident, or for this whole incident, I wouldn't have been a subscriber. But yeah, he's got a website, he's got merch, he's got all this stuff, and people probably, I'm assuming at least a good portion of them went to go buy a t-shirt.
Yeah, I'm convinced they probably did.
So at that point, now we did mention that he took it down a day later. He issued an apology on YouTube. Or not on YouTube. He issued an apology on Twitter, where people can actually access it. We have the link to it, but I'm not necessarily going to read it here. This guy is still getting flack on Twitter, on Facebook, on all of his social media outlets, and for good reason. I know a lot of people wanted YouTube to react and to give him basically to take their belt off and whip him with it. But unfortunately, YouTube has also made a statement where they basically did nothing. They did nothing to him. The funniest part is that after he took down the video, a bunch of people tried to bring up the video. They took those down. They took those videos down, but they didn't take his down. They didn't take immediate action. Yeah, and I can't help but wonder if this was a person that you didn't agree with, or thought or had thoughts that you didn't personally like, would you have had faster action on that one, YouTube?
You know, yeah. In fact, there was one YouTuber who was spoofing Logan Paul and making fun of the fact that he made such a video. This video got yanked right off the bat. So, yeah, YouTube's initial reaction was pretty much a non-reaction.
I'm just throwing this out here. I don't necessarily like getting political, but this is the only example that I can think of that has had problems with YouTube this year. But I'm just saying, for the record, if Sargon of Akkad had put this video up, would you have reacted faster, YouTube? I'll bet you would. Yeah, I bet that would be the perfect evidence for you.
I'd say it's a bit erroneous to assume that it's specifically because Logan Paul agrees with the crowd. I think it more has to do with the fact of money, that he rakes in the views, makes YouTube a good share of their revenue.
That's actually not where I was going with it. My problem is the exact same problem I have with the YouTube Kids incident. Is YouTube's eyes are over here, and this crap is going on outside of their field of vision, and they're not acknowledging it. And so this is yet another example of, oh no, we weren't keeping our eye on the ball.
I don't think it's a case they weren't keeping their eye on the ball.
If it was a guy over here that did it, you would see it and you would react instantly.
Yeah, I'm with Romney. I don't think this is not a case of, so-called thought policing. This is just, it's willful ignorance on YouTube's part because it's
both.
Because it's their golden boy.
Yeah, it's the golden goose. They don't want to take down the golden goose. And only recently, and this action was announced 11 days after that video was published, where the only thing YouTube has since done is that they've removed Logan Paul from their preferred program, their Google preferred program.
So and basically what they've done with PewDiePie.
Yes. And that's the thing. And that was only...
And I'd say this was more... Even then, I'd say this is a slap on the wrist because, they took him off their preferred program and they put his project on hold, massive air quotes, on hold.
Well,
in
with
other
PewDiePie,
words,
they had the project. I don't think Logan Paul had anything going for them, did he?
yeah,
he had a sequel to the film The Thinning, the first film being released through YouTube Red. There was a second one in development, and there was also a comedy that he was a part of that has also been put on hold, that he was a recurring character on. The third season premiered last November, and so yeah, he had a film he was a part of put on hold, not canceled, put on hold.
This is news to me. So yeah, what the hell, YouTube?
Can you say nepotism? Yeah, that's the only way to put it. Is that, and this is only
where were the 10,000 people, YouTube? Where were the 10,000 people who were supposed to be your increased eyes and ears? Are they being trained? Are they even hired? Where are they? Because maybe they would have spotted this thing and you wouldn't have this issue. Maybe you wouldn't have to enlist your heroes to do this job for you.
See, I'm thinking the Heroes program is complete fluff because, well, this is something I posted in our newsfeed as I was kind of keeping tabs on the stories. It kept developing and developing over the couple weeks between this and between the story breaking. Was evidently the video did get flagged, and like a professional YouTube flagger or whatever, somebody like some kind of moderator, granted this is from a Twitter thread, so who knows if it's real or not, said, well, YouTube saw it, but took no action. I can't pull it up right now, but it, so again, I think it is just a case of YouTube completely turning a blind eye because Logan Paul's got a shit ton of followers and he brings all the traffic to YouTube and he brings all the viewers. And so they don't care.
Well, they even correct me if I'm wrong. I don't have the statement in front of me, but they acknowledged in either that statement or a later one. It's like the most that they actually would have done on this one is probably flag it. Yeah, the most they would have done is they would have flagged it, put an age barrier, and they would have let him keep the video up.
Yeah, with an age restriction. I don't know
how many times I got shown on Twitter their guidelines and how many ways Logan Paul violated them.
Yeah, an age gap for showing a dead body of a person who probably killed themselves.
Which he already put up, didn't he? I think he admitted to that. He put an age barrier up already. So this is something that YouTube would have done, which would have already been done.
Yeah.
Yeah. And plus, when has an age gate ever stopped anyone? I mean,
exactly.
Let's be honest.
It's not hard to lie about your age here on YouTube. My kid could get
past that.
Yeah.
And that's the real problem here. And I think that's where a lot of the ire is coming from, is the fact that this clearly shows YouTube not wanting to actually enforce its own policies if it'll hurt their bottom line. Because what a lot of people are calling for, granted, they have come up with an additional statement on Twitter saying that they did issue his channel one strike. One strike. Like that actually means anything. And so that's ultimately the biggest problem here.
Alex, do you want to point out to me what you do when you get a strike? And how that doesn't punish you?
He probably just got a community guideline strike, which doesn't punish you. It just takes away your streaming rights for a while. Big deal. I don't think he streams anyway. If he does, then he can easily go to Twitch. So who cares? So yeah, you got one community guideline strike. Big fucking deal.
Well, and on top of that, the thing I was going for is you've gotten strikes before, Alex.
I've gotten copyright strikes, never community guideline strikes. Copyright strikes are a little more severe because they do actually limit the length of your videos, but he's a blogger anyway. He can make his videos as long as he needs.
And vlogs are already supposed to be short anyway. So at that point, that doesn't necessarily matter. But yeah, this is the way that things are going as of right now, because I don't think there's been any recent updates aside from the YouTube announcement or the YouTube statement on the matter. Logan Paul is still up and running. And the other thing that I'll actually mention is, like, we didn't talk about this too much with PewDiePie, but when he left the preferred and he wasn't being exposed to a bunch of advertisers by that point, given what we've heard about YouTube this year, I have a feeling PewDiePie was still being pushed to Google as saying, like, look, we've got this revenue that's constant and that is able to keep us up and running. And I'll bet you that even though all this action has happened, YouTube is probably also looking to Google and saying, well, we still got Logan Paul. Because he's learned his lesson. Has he? Really? I mean,
No.
I'll give you the viewpoint. I read the apology, and I'll give the guy the benefit of the doubt if he learned from this, which I don't know if he has. Honestly, I don't know if I buy his apology. Just given the words that were used for it, it sounded very PR. So at that point, I don't know. Like, I'll take him at his word that you won't do it again. You'll do something else that will violate it, and then at that point, you'll be back at this situation again, and. You know, this is one of those times where I kind of wish we had Brenton here, because Brenton's absolutely right. What the big guys do eventually trickles down to us. And now we have the stigma of, oh, you guys work with that other guy that uses the N-word on his stream. Or you guys work with that other guy who showed the dead body. Seriously. It's getting to a point where all the ones that have like 1 million plus, I almost want to pull them all into a room and smack them all upside the head and go, you are the example. Start fucking living it.
Yeah, the sad part, both the sad and frustrating part is that even the YouTubers that are in that million viewer club have been also calling Logan Paul out on this. I know at the very least, because I know Thomas Ridgewell was that's how I first heard of this story breaking, was when Thomas Ridgewell vented his frustrations on Twitter about the whole thing, and rightfully pointing out the inconsistency in YouTube's policies. And so
I was also happy when I saw Pro Jared and Gaijin Goomba on my Twitter feed. The evidence that I got seen of the violation of the community guidelines came from them. I don't think Mark has made a statement on it, but I think Jack has.
Yeah, and I know Phil DeFranco, he's taken YouTube. He's taken YouTube to task quite repeatedly, because YouTube seems to be under the impression that its user base is filled with a bunch of the same people that would watch Logan Paul's videos, which is not true. We actually read the terms and conditions. We actually follow a lot of these guidelines. We actually do the research. So you can't do the politician tactic of saying, we're working on it.
Some of them are the Geek News Reviews and Opinions community, which is awesome. And by most part, actually agree with us in this regard that, like, yes, he is the scum of the earth and makes us all look bad.
Yeah, but the point I was making is that YouTube seems to be under the impression that the user base is still stupid little teens and kids who are just watching silly videos on YouTube. That's not the case anymore. You can't do the whole politician of, oh, we're working on it and expect us to be okay with it. No, we're adults. It's time to actually start conducting the company as if it's actually working with adults, because that attitude of just saying words and doing no action.
Honestly, that's the way it should have been from the beginning. You know, I've seen a lot of communities online that just immediately assume that their only audience is adults, and then at that point model them to be appropriate, so that then they can go backwards, so they can go back from adults to having a kid-friendly environment too. That's the way that YouTube should have gone. And look, the bottom line is, and Romney and I will both agree on this, is that there is a teenage demographic on YouTube. It's still pretty big. But a lot of them are growing up, and unfortunately they either adhere to that teenage demographic even in their 20s, which that makes me just so happy about college for them, because they're going to be those guys that I got to deal with in college. But then you also have the adults that do act like that, or adults like you and me kind of thing, where we actually do hold these guys to a higher standard. I don't even want to call it a higher standard. I want to call it a professional standard. Okay. Because the bottom line is that a lot of us, the three people on this panel included, want to be acknowledged professionally. And so we conduct ourselves accordingly. And then we see somebody like this, some idiot like Logan Paul, who has all of the saturation, all the attention, and makes us look bad in the process. So it's one of those things that, you know, I almost don't want what we've all said in our videos. Like, I think we all gave YouTube about a year or two before they fold, because they're just running themselves into the ground. I hope that they learn their lessons from this. I honestly, sincerely do, because I do actually like the landscape that YouTube provides, that even though, you know, you can still have like an 80-20 kind of community, and that's the way it is kind of on YouTube with political stuff. But you could still have 50-50 stuff in the gaming community, in the makeup community, in the community. I just barely saw a couple of videos of like local community theater groups like making stuff for their local community theater. That's what this can be. And unfortunately, when they do stuff like that, and then we have Logan Paul, it brings people away from YouTube. It makes us look like, unfortunately, what the stigma says we are, kind of thing. And that's the sad reality of this. But anyway, we've been beating this over the head for a while. So final thoughts on this before we move on.
Yeah, I want to read off this particular tweet that I read right after the situation broke. This is by Maki Terashima Furuta. She is the head of production IG.
Is she the one that got harassed by Logan Paul fans?
No, that was a different person. Right. This particular tweet, like I said, she is the head of production IG here in America, so she obviously is Japanese herself and has ties to Japan. She wrote, Logan Paul will definitely make it harder for the foreigners to visit Japan in the future. Don't take Japan's politeness for granted. He shouldn't be allowed to go to Japan anymore.
No. Frankly, when I hear behavioral stuff like that, because I don't know necessarily what's involved with getting a visa and getting or not a visa, but a passport for these countries. But I have to feel like there's some kind of guidelines of like, you need to behave yourself while in the country, follow its laws, all that stuff. And then when you hear stuff like that, it makes me wonder if actually this authority gets involved and says, no, your passport's not approved.
It makes you wonder what would have happened if he had pulled this crap in, say, Singapore, which has the strictest laws even for things like littering. I mean, if Logan Paul did any crap like this in Singapore, he would not have been allowed to come back to the
US.
US.
As cruel as this sounds, I would go worse, Romney. I really would. I hope he did this in a war zone. I honestly do, because he deserves everything he would get if he got captured. So that's my opinion on the matter. That's where I'm standing on this. And it's just, once again, more people doing stupid stuff that now we all look stupid.
Yep. And
I wasn't even kidding. I really do want the community to get involved here, because YouTube clearly isn't.
Yep. And a lot of you, and for all we know, Logan Paul maybe is having reality dawn on him on what he's done, because he's even admitted that he's going to he's suspending his vlog. What that means remains to be seen. But who knows? It's a case of, if he really is sorry and if he really does regret his actions, well, he's got to prove that he's actually learned his lesson. Whether or not he has will remain to be seen at the time of recording.
Yep. Actions speak louder than words, Logan. All right. So now we can actually get into the good stuff. Are we all happy about that? Let's get into the good stuff. So a couple of days ago, the long-awaited, I'm saying long-awaited because I don't know how many games journalists were actually saying about saying we want a Nintendo Direct before the year's end, before all of that. After basically post Game Awards, they wanted some good news kind of thing, and they were waiting for Nintendo to react because Nintendo still has a lot of questions to answer. So I'm going to quickly go over what was covered in the Direct, and then we actually do have an interesting article going over the stuff they didn't cover in the Nintendo Direct. And then we'll first of all, we'll go into our reactions on the stuff that was announced, and you guys can have some fun with that. So first things first, we got more third-party support as Dark Souls Remastered is coming to not only PS4, I think it's going to Xbox as well, but it's also making its way to the Nintendo Switch on May 25th. So that's even more third-party support that is coming to the Switch. And this actually answers my question on From Software. I've been wondering what they would actually bring to Switch, and I think even me and Aldo speculated it would be Dark Souls. We also got a couple of excuse me, a couple of Wii U remasters or definitive editions coming in the form of Hyrule Warriors definitive edition, which I think is actually going to add stuff to it that is Switch exclusive. And the one that I know has been screamed about for a while, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, is making its way to the Nintendo Switch. I was actually very happy to hear that announcement. We also have Super Mario Odyssey Luigi's Balloon World, which is DLC for Odyssey. We have Mario Tennis Aces, which we got a gameplay trailer for, but only a 2018 release window. We also got the announcement that Donkey Kong will be joining Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. So there you go, additional DLC there. Payday 2 is going to be getting a Switch exclusive character, so you get look forward to that. Pokken Tournament is getting 2 new fighters, I believe, with Blastoise and Mimikyu. Oh, actually, no. Blastoise, Mimikyu are the first 2, and then they're also going to include Aegislash and Rayquaza in there, along with possible Mew and Celebi as support Pokemon. Kirby Star Allies got a release date, which is for March 16th for Nintendo Switch. I'm probably going to murder this one, but YS8 Lacrimosa of Dana. Ys? Is it Ys?
Yep, it's Ys.
Yep.
I've never actually played it, so I don't know. But Ys,
I haven't either.
Ys8 Lacrimosa of Dana is officially announced for PS4, Vita, and Switch, and it's going to be coming this summer.
Well, actually, it was already out for the PS4 and Vita.
Oh, that's right. Sorry.
It's coming out this summer for the Switch and for PC.
For PC. Square Enix fans rejoice because a cult hit has finally made its way to the Switch, and that is The World Ends With You Final Remix. And that will be coming to the Nintendo Switch later this year, 10 years after its DS original release. We also got the release date for Fee, which is a indie game that I kind of covered in my E3 coverage from EA. That will be coming out February 16th. We also got a release date for the indie game Celeste, which will be released on January 25th and actually looks pretty good. So those were the major announcements that came from the Nintendo Direct. Let's just go over our thoughts really quick, and then I'll bring in the other stuff that wasn't brought up that I think also needs to merit some discussion. So for me, I'm going to point people to my tweet about Dark Souls Remastered, which was basically to do the Daniel Bryan no gif. No! But that's me. I love the fact that Hyrule Warriors and Tropical Freeze are being brought to Switch. I love the fact that the Wii U is getting some lasting potential and bringing some of its more successful games to the Switch as first-party titles. I think that was a great idea to do. The biggest thing I'm excited for out of this Nintendo Direct, though, was The World Ends With You. Because I don't know how many times that's been recommended to me, and since it was on DS, I said no. For people who don't know, I'm totally against handheld gaming in a lot of cases because it means that I have to deal with horrible knots in my neck because I play for like 2-3 hours. So now this gives me an option to be able to finally play this game, especially since I played Kingdom Hearts 3D and they make cameos in it. So I've been always a little curious about this title, and now I get the opportunity to have it. Romney, where are you standing with some of the announcements that were made?
Honestly, nothing, because again, I'm still one of the people that has yet to buy a Switch, again, as kind of the running joke, disgruntled Wii U owner over here. And so far, all these announcements, nothing's sold me yet. There's nothing that's got me to actually get excited for the system, not even the final remix of The World Ends With You, because that was one of the games I played a lot in high school and college.
I think you were one of the guys that recommended it to me, weren't you?
Yeah, and so I greatly enjoy that game. Granted, their depiction in Dream Drop Distance, I have problems with, but that just is more because pointless fan service. So it's very much the frustrations people had when Cloud was brought in, or when certain characters like Auron were brought in, where they felt out of character. I felt those frustrations with The World Ends With You when you consider the overall theme of the game. But so far, yeah, I mean, these games look good, but nothing that's really sold me on getting a Switch, because I'm not interested in Super Mario Odyssey. I have no interest in Dark Souls. I already have Hyrule Warriors. Country fan, it's just nothing sold me yet. I'm still on the fence, and so there's nothing that makes me want to put down the $300, $400.
I will admit there were a couple of announcements in there that disappointed me too, in the fact that I'd already heard rumblings of more Metroid news coming from this next Nintendo Direct. I was hoping that would happen, and it didn't. And I also was disappointed because I saw the tweets that came out from Square Enix about Bravely Default and Bravely Second possibly coming to the Switch. And I guess they're holding those off until their Square Enix convention that's going to announce Tomb Raider. So I'll admit that there was a lot more disappointment, unfortunately, from this Nintendo Direct. But Alex, where were you standing with it?
I guess I'm kind of like Romney. I'm on the fence, although I am interested in Hyrule Warriors because I was interested that back then, but back in the days before I ended up buying the Wii U and chucking my Wii U in exchange, because eventually I'm going to get a Switch. But yeah. It's just kind of another average Nintendo Direct. It's a lot of ports of older games that I probably won't play. I don't want to play Dark Souls, and I've never been interested in
But people want us to play it, Alex. Isn't that enough reason?
Yeah. So weird as it sounds, I've never really been that interested in Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, even though I really like the original trilogy on the SNES. I don't know why, but it's just the way it is. So yeah, just I guess another kind of average Nintendo Direct. Nothing too exciting and grabbing to my attention. Oh, and Pokken Tournament, because I was also interested in that back in the Wii U, but I never got it for Wii U because I chucked my Wii U pretty quickly.
Yes, you did. Which is sad too, because I think Aldo pushed that on you a lot. Like I think he wanted you to get into it, so it just never happened. Now here's the stuff that people were hoping would be in that Nintendo Direct, but wasn't. So we'll go over these as quickly as we possibly can, but there was no launch date on the new online infrastructure. We're still in the dark on this one. We don't know how it will work. We have the guesses so far, and that's it. Like, we know that it will be for a monthly or a yearly fee, and that's about it. We don't know what it's actually going to offer us. So that wasn't there. The other thing that wasn't kind of coupled with the online infrastructure was the virtual console wasn't there. And for the people who are already screaming, because there are Neo Geo titles that are available on the Switch. You can get them via the eShop. That's not enough. People wanted to actually have like an actual virtual console by now to see like what retro games will you bring in here and how will you handle them. And especially since a lot of Nintendo announcements have made people very worried, me included, that virtual console will basically be like the NES remixes where it's only going to be like, go get 25 coins in 1 minute kind of thing, not necessarily bringing the games themselves into the Switch. So no virtual console, no online infrastructure. Cloud storage, still question mark on this one, again with the online infrastructure. And we were also hoping for a lot more third-party support. We're not seeing it. We saw From Software. That was a big one. We saw EA, but we already know that EA's kind of made the statement they're not really doing a whole lot with the Switch's dev kit. And they have really no intention to do so. But there was a lot of prominent titles that are a lot of prominent companies that are still unaccounted for in that list kind of thing. And then finally, where was Metroid Prime 4? Where was, because there's a rumored Pokemon game slated for the Switch, an RPG, not necessarily like a mystery dungeon or something like that. Like the supposition, I guess, or the speculation is more along the lines that the next generation would be on Switch. And then finally, no Fire Emblem, because there were still Fire Emblem games that need to come out. And unfortunately, yeah, they're not there. And finally, video streaming services are also still not available on Nintendo Switch. So, thoughts on those? I'm already very disappointed in the fact that, again, Metroid Prime wasn't there. I want to see what they're doing with that. And we need answers on this damn infrastructure. We really need to know what they're going to do for their online service. I know a lot of people want to get into that and be able to start playing online multiplayer and how that's all going to work. And I'm right there with them. I want an answer on a lot of this stuff. So where are you guys standing with it?
Yeah, we really should get some answers already about what they're going to do with their new eShop and where they're going to progress forward on that. I can understand probably why we're not getting Metroid Prime 2 right now. We don't know where that's at in development. It's probably still pretty early, but you're right. It's like for the basic things, we really should be starting to see some information on the eShop. For the console being out for a year already, you got to get it together, Nintendo.
Yeah, especially not even just with the eShop, but just knowing how the online structure is going to work, especially if they want to bring in games like Dark Souls, which are heavily reliant on player.
Yeah, it's online reliant. I don't know how they're going to bring Dark Souls here without an online infrastructure.
Yeah, and that's the other key thing, and that's one of the other reasons why I haven't put down the money for a Switch, is because in place yet. And so if I want to do an online multiplayer, that isn't really there for me because they don't have their ducks in a row yet.
No, they really don't. And so this is one of those things that Nintendo needs to address sooner rather than later. So let's go ahead and move on into the next story because there really isn't much else to talk about with these. I'm glad for the announcements that we got, but it wasn't enough from Nintendo. I already know some news outlets are pissed at the lack of announcements at the Nintendo Direct this on the 11th. I think it was yesterday, yesterday or Wednesday. Moving on into the next story, which is a confirmation. So a while back, we reported on Amazon strike.
Amazon
anime strike. So this was basically going to be the Amazon answer to Crunchyroll to be able to do the streams as well as the what's the word I'm looking for? Simulcasts and all that fun stuff. And we can officially confirm that it has been shut down. So that gave us what, Alex? 6-7 months?
Just about a year. A little short. Just
about a year. All right. Just about a year. And now, for those who are already asking, because they had 9 anime up there, obviously you guys could tell it was doing very well. The 9 anime that were available via strike have since moved to Prime service. So if you're a Prime customer, you get access to these things right off the bat. So you can have access to wonderful series like Scum's Wish and what was it? Made in Abyss,
which was really critically acclaimed last year. Then again, so was Scum's Wish, so who knows how accurate that is. So.
Yeah, but you could get access to those. I think the only one that wasn't accessible on Crunchyroll was Scum's Wish.
No, Made in Abyss wasn't on Crunchyroll either.
Oh, it wasn't?
I don't think. No, so, that's kind of the whole point of being exclusive behind these platforms.
Yep. So at that point, for those who don't know what strike was, basically for I believe you had to be a Prime customer. Yeah, you had to have a Prime membership first, and then you had to pay an additional $5 per month for an anime strike subscription, and then you would get access to these things. And I wonder why that failed, because you put it behind the Prime paywall.
Yeah, it basically, it's the same problem that plagued Phantasy Star Universe, where you already had to have a subscription to one service and then had to pay another subscription fee. And people wonder why nobody really jumped on. And there are series that were on Anime Strike that I wanted to watch, but I wasn't going to pay the extra $5 a month. I mean, a Prime membership costs about $100 a year, usually $99, give or take. And so adding an extra $60 on top of that, no. I'll just stick with Crunchyroll, which, yes, you pay about the same price per month, but you don't have to basically pay twice for one service.
What I think ultimately happened, correct me if I'm wrong, because it was a while ago when we covered this, but I think what ultimately happened was, since I'm the guy who actually had the Prime subscription, like, some people were pushing for me to get the strike so that you guys could borrow my password and just use it for your own. I was like, well, that would be a really interesting way to get around it. But yeah. I wasn't interested because they didn't offer anything I was remotely interested in. I think
this is also why funny story. It doesn't have much to do with this, but a few months ago, Anime News Network put out an open call for anyone wanting to write for them as sort of a freelancer. The catch-all is you pretty much had to have access to all the major anime streaming services, and I'm like, screw that. I'm not paying for Anime Strike. I'm already paying for Crunchyroll. Maybe I'll.
Did they mandate strike? I would think that they would just mandate Crunchyroll or Verve.
Well, given the exclusivity of certain series to Anime Strike, they probably would.
Okay, yeah. They pretty much said you got to have access to all the major streaming platforms: Strike, Hulu, Netflix, Crunchyroll, Funimation, everyone.
That gets pretty costly.
Yeah,
especially
for a freelance gig. So I'm like, God, you're going to be paying me much at all. So that's a lot.
That's something like if you had a 9-to-5 and we're pretty secure in that and could actually pay the membership fees, then you might want to look into that. But that's really weird mandating that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not completely unheard of when you consider just that's the name of the game with the anime industry.
Yeah.
kind of the same case in Japan. You have to watch, if you're covering anime, you've got to watch all the different networks. We see it here with people who write about shows like the DC shows or the Marvel shows. They have to basically watch all of those different networks. And if any of them are on...
I completely agree on that, but sorry, we're constantly interrupting Romney right now, but I agree with that completely. But I find it a little bit of a double standard, because I do know at least a couple of the reporters on Anime News Network were actually able to get into that staff for not doing this, for not having to pay for the multiple services. Some of them would dedicatedly just pay for Crunchyroll because they were only going to cover that one series or that one particular thing. Like, because I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Anime News Network does like devote people that are interested in those series to cover them exclusively.
Yeah, and I think in the case of that, those are like their regular full-time staffers that they themselves personally hired, as opposed to a freelance gig that they have an open call for. So I'm not totally holding it against Anime News Network for asking for those qualifications here to have access to the streaming, because it is writing for seasonal anime reviews. But it's just, that's kind of, again, drawing it back to the main story, considering Anime Strike was already an extra fee on top of the already expensive Amazon Prime. That's why I never went out for that particular position.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, there you go. Rest in peace, Anime Strike. Unfortunately, it was a bad idea from Amazon. Wasn't really going to go anywhere, and now it's dead. So
should have just made it a separate. Should have just made it a separate service,
or doing what they're doing now, just have it bundled in Prime. That way, people who are already paying the Prime membership can actually.
Yeah, that's really what should have happened. Is that instead of in the double paywall, it should have been like the initial paywall and then Prime, and then you get so much more. Kind of.
Yeah, like the way I would have done it would be Prime users get it for free. Anybody else who wants it will pay the monthly fee.
Yeah, because they're already paying for Prime. So at that point, I agree with that. So unfortunately, there isn't too much to go on there, but rest in peace, Anime Strike. You weren't there very long, but you won't be missed.
Yep. But at least it means I can finally see Girls Last Tour, because of all the shows that they got the exclusive for, that was the one that caught my attention.
If we could find out like where these things are going from there on, it might be a helpful thing too for our audience.
Well, currently Amazon still holds the rights. It's just they're no longer segregating it into Strike. It's just it's just part of Prime Video.
Yep. So here we go. The next story that we have tonight. People might wonder why we don't cover the Twitter feuds, because they're not interesting. They weren't interesting until this one. So I don't know about you, Romney, because I have a feeling Alex didn't follow this, but I have a feeling, because if there was one thing I did on vacation, man, I followed this thing. I followed this feud like the second it started. And the one that we're talking about is the active feud that Sean Schemmel and Chris Sabat, aka the voices in Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super for Goku and Vegeta, that has since been summed up into an online challenge for Goku and Vegeta to face off in Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball Fighters. But oh my gosh, the lead up into this thing. I mean, I don't usually reference wrestling on this podcast. I reserve that for another one, but this is a WrestleMania that I would pay to see. All right. Just the amount of effort that has gone in from both Sean Schemmel and Chris Sabat. And the best part about this is, for those who have not been following it, Chris Sabat's really the one who's putting in all the effort, because he's like putting in the amazing GIFs. And I want that wallpaper, and I want it moving of Vegeta in the rain. I want that. Where he'll put up these elaborate videos to be able to talk trash to Sean Schemmel. How does Sean respond? By sitting in some random dude's house with a fireplace with a dog. I think it's his actual place, but
that's like his actual house.
Sitting in front of his fireplace, playing his French horn. Well, not even, I don't know what it is, but playing his horn, playing his French horn, petting his dog, and then saying, "Oh yeah, we can do this." So, and the funniest thing is like the best parts about it weren't even from Sean or Chris. In particular, one I found funny was from Lauren Moore, who's formerly of Screw Attack, but she now works for Funimation, where she basically was the bystander during all of this stuff, because that week she was moderating the Funimation Twitter account. And she's like, this is my reaction. She found some random Muppet just going, just because it got worse and worse and worse, eventually leading up into this challenge on Dragon Ball FighterZ, which, by the way, guys, is scheduled by Funimation on their YouTube channel. So the first question I got to ask before I open up this panel, Romney, are you gonna come over so we can watch this in person?
I need to see this one way or another.
Yes. I will get the popcorn ready. I'll get pizza ready, but we'll get to that story in a second. But I mean, seriously, this has been amazing on Twitter to watch.
Indeed.
So Romney, your thoughts? I've already kind of given mine on it, but
I guess the best way is I just like how you can tell that they're both just having a lot of fun, like just building this up. Just in a world where all the Twitter feuds have been so negative, it's just fun to see a Twitter feud where both sides are just having fun, and that's just why I like it. It's just like, yeah, it's because it's fun. It's not trying to make anyone angry. It's just, yeah, two guys, fun guys, having fun, and we're all just joining in on the laughs and the lulls, especially in anticipation.
Not just fun guys, but it's very clear Sean and Chris have worked with each other for a very long time and enjoy working together, which is amazing to say. Like, I think there are even some anime voice actors in the States that can't stand their counterpart anymore just because of how much time they've spent. And who has had a longer amount of time together than Sean Schemmel and Chris Sabat? Who honestly, I want somebody to bring that out to me. Who has spent more time together than Chris Sabat and Sean Schemmel? And this is not the first time they pranked each other either. It's one of those things I recommend that you go and watch if you haven't, Romney. Go watch. I think it's like Chris Sabat explains pranks to Sean Schemmel. And you find out some of the stuff that he would do, like when Sean would fly in to record for I think one of them was for Resurrection F, and then another one was for Kai. So, but like he would intentionally make it so that they took all of his stuff out of his backpack, like the hotel staff, or no, the hotel staff would give him the key in advance, and then they would take his luggage while he was off recording, and then just randomly place it throughout the hotel. Or all the hotel room, and then he would call him and he's like, Chris, man, it's the hotel staff. They're totally getting into my stuff.
Yeah, because they talked about it in the Reddit AMA as well, in the lead up to the release of Resurrection F in theaters here in the States. They did an AMA discussing, and he talked about some of the pranks that he would pull. And yeah, it's just, again, the reason I like this is that, again, Twitter's becomes a talk, so it's just nice to see people actually having fun with this sort of thing. And I especially like what Sonny Strait has even tweeted about it. For those of you who don't know, Sonny Strait is the voice of Krillin.
Yeah, he's gotten involved a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like this tweet, which was from yesterday, said, "For my poll, the odds are almost 2-1 in favor of voice of Vegeta, Chris Sabat, over Sean Schemmel. Of course, this is based on nothing since no one has seen these two play before. I say the odds are pretty even. Sean has the fastest mind I know, but Chris, I believe, is from the future."
Yes. Dude, it's been such an amazing feud to go into. The only thing that could have made it better, and this, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, if this actually happened, I didn't see it happen on Twitter, because I don't necessarily have all of them followed. I almost wanted the Team 4-star guys to get involved. Like for Sean Schemmel and Chris Sabat getting involved, I wanted Masako X and Lanny Pator to actually like mirror this feud on Twitter. That would have been amazing.
Yeah, and looking at this, I did see that the date it's actually scheduled, according to Funimation's Twitter, is January 25th. That is when this matchup is going to happen, where Sean Schemmel and Chris Sabat are going to throw down in Dragon Ball.
And I think it's set at 8 o'clock or 10 o'clock.
Yeah,
so at that point, this is the day before FighterZ releases.
Yep, so at the Esports Arena in Santa Ana, California. So
this is basically now a launch event for FighterZ, and I could not be more excited about this. Just because already FighterZ kind of had me And now that I'm going to actually be able to see Sean Schemmel and Chris Sabat fight in the game, not in real life, in the game, and after that be able to get into Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Fighters, yeah, it's icing on the cake. It really is.
Yep.
The only thing that would make it better, Masako X and Lanny Pator come in and they do their own.
Yeah, I mean, chances are we're probably going to get a Two Saiyans play.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, because given what we saw with the Tekken 7 Two Saiyans play, there's going to be some sort of follow-up in that regard. But yeah, it's just
what I'm saying is, like, I almost wanted Lanny Pator to make like a dummy account that is kind of like Sabat is king or something like that, and get involved into the stuff, but use his Vegeta isms to get in there. It's just like, I will kill you, Kakarot! Vegeta, yes! You know, it just all of a sudden go into his kind of character and be like, Lanny, we know it's you.
Yeah.
But he makes it worse.
Yeah, like if there ever was a good way to launch a highly anticipated game based on probably one of the most popular anime in the history of the anime industry as it stands in the United States.
Yeah. Fighters is going to have an awesome launch, and this is the perfect launch event that they needed for it. I don't know if they planned this out or if this was just absolutely random. Because with Chris Sabat and Sean Schemmel, you can't necessarily tell. Like they may have been set to go to the esports arena, but not necessarily fight. So
yeah, and plus given that it's not even just that Funimation would have been able to arrange it, they also had to get Bandai Namco involved. So they're the ones who actually make the game. And so, because I know a lot of those earlier tweets were, "Hey, Bandai Namco, can you hook us up and sanction this?" They did.
Yeah, I think it was pretty fast. So they got the approval of Funimation, Bandai, Namco, Arc System Works. They got everybody, and fairly quick too. Just saying, oh yeah, we definitely need this. We need you we need you guys. And I have a feeling they're going to do like a best 2 out of 3, and one of them is going to be Super Saiyan Blue Goku versus Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta. It's going to happen.
So that does raise the question, just given the amount of characters that Chris Sabat plays in Dragon Ball Z and Super, is it going to be an all Vegeta team, or is he going to go the full Sabat roster of Vegeta, Yamcha, Piccolo?
Well, this is a final release, so they can technically do single bouts, or they can do the 3-on-3. I would like them to do that, but the problem is I don't think there's enough characters that Sean can get. Because like a lot of those, like Chris Sabat would be obvious because you can get Vegeta, you can get Piccolo. I'm trying to
Yamcha.
Yamcha, he could do that, but Sean, he has Goku and King Kai, and that's it. So at that point, it's like, okay, does Bandai and Namco immediately demand that he play some super characters to advertise them? I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? We don't know how this is gonna go down. We just know it's going down, and there's just. I am without words. It just makes me that much more excited for Dragon Ball Fighters.
Yes, and so we've left kind of Alex out in the dust, but you're not a Dragon Ball fan. But your thoughts on this, because you had to have at least seen some of the backlash that came from this, Alex.
Not until you guys brought it up. I didn't know this was even going on. But you know, their voice actors always have real fun senses of humor like this. They always have fun. So it's always great to see them just let loose and have a little fun on Twitter.
Do we eventually see like other voice actors getting brought into this at all, Romney? Like Sonny Strait has already voiced himself on Twitter. Like, could he show up for the event and do some stuff too? Could we actually have not Chris Ayers. I don't know the current voice of Frieza because Chris Ayers is battling cancer, but have him come in, or have the voice of Beerus come in and also do some fights.
Well, that just raises one question, and I'm having to look it up on IMDb. Do you know who the voice is for the tournament announcer in the Dragon Ball franchise? Because I'm trying to find that.
I know that he's done work for Team 4-Star. Because he's the announcer also in DBZ Abridged for a few episodes, but I don't know the name off the top of my head.
All right, I'm gonna look it up. Yeah, because honestly, if there was one voice actor that they should bring in, they need to bring in the guy who plays the tournament. And
totally. And I'm just gonna go ahead and cut off Alex at the pass. Yes, Laura Bailey should be there, and yes, she should play Trunks. Technically, she's Kid Trunks, and that character is not in the game. Instead, it's Gotenks. But yeah, you could have Laura Bailey. And I'm not remembering a lot of the voices. I want to see the voice of Volma there if they can get her. The voice of Whis. Go nuts with it. Don't just have Sean or Chris there. Let's have panels. Let's tell stories. This would be amazing. And let's bring in the super voices, because I know that a bunch of actors just barely got brought in to play voices like Hit and for Champa and a couple of others.
Yeah, I didn't think this would be so hard to actually find, but geez.
There's a lot of announcers, so I couldn't.
Yeah, but the one he's talking about is iconic. It should be everywhere. Because I know who he's talking about. Goku, whether or not he will get up. Yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
It's the same announcer that throughout Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z has been the same guy who's been the tournament announcer. Eric Vale, that's who it is.
Eric Vale. Can we both be in agreement that he needs to be handed a mic and actually announce this thing?
Yeah, that needs to happen. We need this.
Ready? Go! Yeah, we need to have that. It would be awesome. In fact, I want the Team 4-Star guys out there for that release, just for the hell of it. Because here's the thing, for all the people who are like, oh no, it's spoof. They've done voices in games like Xenoverse. They've been brought in.
They've also been brought in for Resurrection F as well. At least I know one of them was brought in for Resurrection F.
Yeah, I can't remember which one, but like Takahata 101 has come in and he's voiced Nappa, I think, in Xenoverse.
Yeah, plus, if you look,
and a little bit in Kai.
Yeah, actually, in Kai, they brought in a lot of the Team 4-Star people, because if you look at the episode in the final chapters where they have the whole movie within the show of, oh, here's how Hercule defeated Cell, all the people doing the voices in that segment are all the people from Team 4-Star.
Yep, exactly. So at that point, I totally want to see this happen, but we probably better move on. Otherwise, we are going to bore the crap out of Alex. But bottom line, Romney, you, me, the couch that night for the event.
I'm hyped.
All right, let's do this. I'm totally stoked for it. Finally, our last story of the evening, which will also go in, it will fit in nicely with what we're going to do when we're both on the couch watching this Dragon Ball Z event happen, is that if a robocar brought us pizza. There are people out there. I could see you, Dan, in the audience, who's kind of wondering, what? Yeah, this is a thing. So, at the 2018 Consumer Electronics Show, Pizza Hut made an astonishing announcement that they were going to be teaming with Toyota to potentially have pizzas delivered in autonomous vehicles in the near future. Yes, you heard me right. Pizza Hut wants to deliver your pizza in a self-driving car. Basically, I'm thinking that it would be like a giant pizza oven so it could keep it warm and all that stuff. But we even have pictures of this thing. It is very futuristic. And this kind of gets coupled into, a while back we covered the whole Amazon delivering, because I think we covered the drones too, and then we also covered the Amazon lock so that your packages could be delivered inside your house.
Yes, by letting a stranger walk into your house. And
yes. Alex, didn't you find like a story of somebody getting fired after we did that story for doing what we exactly said?
Not fired, but they did. But not fired. Nothing bad as far as I know actually happened. But Amazon did discover a pretty potentially damning security flaw that people could actually potentially hack the camera and essentially make it a still image of an empty room and let people who have access go crazy.
Yes. Sorry. The live chat kind of went nuts with pizza drones. Yes, that's basically what's happening here. But yeah, so this is right now this is not out and working, guys. First of all, I need to clarify that Toyota has announced that they plan to start testing in several regions, but including the United States, but it probably wouldn't be until about 2020 when this actually happens. So Yeah, self-driving cars that bring your pizza to your door. So already the first question that I've got to ask is, okay, how does payment work? Probably you take care of the payment and then what? You get notified via text message that it's outside and you can go and grab your pizza?
Probably something of that regard.
Because if it's a self-driving car, there is no delivery guy.
No, but they would probably still expect a tip, just knowing robots.
And what makes this even worse, so the self-driving concept vehicle is called the e-pallet. Appropriate. Yeah, this is a thing that might be happening in the next couple of years. So my thoughts are this is scary because it's Skynet. And I can already see a bunch of things going wrong. Like what happens if the computer gets your order wrong? What happens if the computer gives you the wrong order and you've already paid? Does that, because I'm assuming that as soon as you've grabbed your stuff, it's going, like it's off to go deliver its next pizza kind of thing. So how does any of this crap work? I'm sure we could we punched holes into the Amazon thing. Let's start punching holes here.
Well, there's the immediate problem of self-driving cars having to contend with the fact that there are humans on the road, because that's the problem that Tesla ran into when testing their self-driving car protocol with their Teslas. And so there's that issue of, okay, how adaptive will it be to, the idiot driving on the wrong side of the road on a Thursday night?
Yep.
And then you also have the case of, okay, like, does it come from one central depot, or will each franchise have access to one? Or is it going to be like a FedEx thing where each franchise in a given county places the order and then the pizza drone truck comes by? And if so, how many are going to be roaming in any given area?
What I'm actually wondering is, can each franchise afford to have one? Because this sounds expensive as hell.
Yep, especially given the way franchises work, which some people may think, oh, but the company will pay for them. Nope. When you buy into a franchise, you're the one who has to cover the cost. They just give you permission to open a restaurant. I mean, the case in point.
Yeah, they give you permission. They give you the recipe book, so to speak, and then they say go nuts. Roughly.
Yeah, pretty much to kind of explain it. Say that all the panelists of Geek News to say, hey, we want to give up podcasting and open a McDonald's. We would basically apply to McDonald's saying, hey, we want to open a franchise. They give us the recipe book, they give us the signage, they give us the branding, and they basically give us all the directions from corporate. But aside from that, we're basically on our own. We have to pay for the meat, we have to pay for the buns, we have to pay for basically all the ingredients, not to mention all the maintenance, all the supplies like the fry cookers and everything. Basically, when you buy into a franchise, you're buying permission to sell pizzas marketed as Pizza Hut, or to sell burgers marketed as McDonald's burgers, but you have to make them the way corporate tells you to. And yeah, you brought up a good point. Can the franchises that buy into Pizza Hut's brand actually afford not just the cost of using the vehicle, but also maintaining it?
Yeah, that's really the question, because something tells me that since this is a new idea, this is a new way to do things, it's going to be expensive as hell. And the reason being is that it's a unique kind of car, which means it needs unique kinds of maintenance. There probably is going to be only a few people that are versed in that, and you have to go with them. And what happens when you don't have the self-driving car and you don't have delivery drivers? You need to have delivery drivers, and quick. So this can get expensive really, 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 really fast. The other thing I'm worried about is that if this is successful, would Pizza Hut mandate it that you have it for your franchise? That already presents another problem, because the local, as you said, it's basically a mom and pop that are looking to be able to open a Pizza Hut and get permission from Pizza Hut to use their rights, use their recipes, all that stuff. What if they can't afford it?
Yep. And the other issue as well is, okay, if these mom and pop franchises are having to invest the money into these autonomous cars and the infrastructure, not just maintaining the vehicle, but the actual data infrastructure that it would have to operate under, where's the cost going to get kicked to? Are they going to eat the cost, or does it mean that your large stuffed crust pizza with extra pepperoni is going to cost a little bit more down the road?
And guys, this is just like getting this thing off the ground. As Romney mentioned earlier, like, what do you do if you have the equivalent of a Sunday driver? What happens if your e-pallets sensors don't properly discover a kid crossing the road, or not even a kid, like just a dog crossing the road and run it over, is your franchise liable, or is Pizza Hut? I have a feeling it would be your franchise.
Yep. And the other thing to consider, in addition, is that how will it detect other vehicles? Because the biggest problem Tesla ran into, that led to the unfortunate accident in which the driver testing it got
detection.
killed. Yeah, it was detection. It was a bright, sunny day, and the vehicle that the Tesla hit was a bright white vehicle that, to the sensor that detected the other vehicles, it blended into the sky. So how do you mitigate that? Especially if it's a nighttime delivery, how do you stop an e-pallet from colliding with a truck that has black paint and tinted windows?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a number of ways that this could go wrong. You know, we've brought up detection, we've brought up liability, we've brought up whether or not you can even afford the damn thing. I mean, it's a great idea. I love that Toyota's getting involved in actually testing the process, but the other question that has to be asked is this a fool's errand before it is even begun? Just because there's nobody that could afford it, there's nobody that would even want to test it.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
Because that's exactly where we're currently at with Tesla trying to do the self-driving cars, is because a lot.
Yeah, they've stopped, haven't they?
They've stopped, and even Google's tried to get in on it, because there's just the one fundamental problem, not just with the detection. The main fundamental element that makes self-driving cars almost an impossibility is it's the human element, having to factor the decisions of human drivers. Because, let's face it, I mean, especially if you live in Utah, where we act, and people have done surveys where we rank in like the top 3 of having the worst drivers in the United States, you can't really program to predict the human element. You can't predict when someone coming from their 9-to-5 job has had a bad day and doesn't want to deal with some guy cutting them off. I mean, most recently, I nearly got hit because I was coming down an intersection near my house, and I had the right of way, but some guy just decided, I'm just going to turn at full speed in this white SUV.
Yeah.
How can you train an AI to account for that sort of thing?
Well, the bottom line is you can't, because the problem with this whole system, and we'll get to Alex, I promise, guys. This is another issue of us talking over Alex again. But the other issue is that or at least the premise on paper is that this job is so freaking predictable a robot could do it. And yeah, you might be right on a few of those days, but then, you know, there are incidents that happen that the delivery guy is forgetting happened during the day that this is not able to compensate for. Like, what happens if you do get that douchey driver, or your delivery car gets stuck in construction? This is something indicative of Utah, is like a lot of our accidents actually do happen at construction areas. So at that point, what happens when that Pizza Hut truck hits construction? There's a bunch of things that haven't been considered yet, but thankfully this is early enough development that they can be actually discussed. Wow. I have the hiccups right now. But anyway, Alex, your thoughts. Do you want Skynet delivering your pizza?
You guys mentioned a lot about the cost, and you know, the way I see it, if and when this rolls out, this will probably be a lot like Amazon's drone rollout, where essentially it's going to be very, very limited markets. So probably we're going to see this more in really like high-end cities like New York.
Tourist
probably not too much here. Yeah, and probably just places that are a lot more steady and a lot more traffic friendly. Again, like New York, where it's like New York City, where it's not going to be like, where there's not going to be so like 20 million variables you got to deal with, like construction. And granted, there are going to be a lot of pedestrians and foot traffic, but yeah, there's just a lot of big things that people are just not thinking about when it comes to this or any kind of self-driving car, really.
The other thing too is that just going off of your deal is like they would only go to the heavily populated areas. I also have a feeling that if this was successful enough, in theory, again, we're talking in theory, that Pizza Hut would keep a couple of these vehicles on standby for, say, a big event like the Super Bowl, where they could fly them in or drive them in, rather, and have that additional coverage for tourists that are coming to see the Super Bowl, or, pro wrestling is another big one. So when WrestleMania comes around, that would be a thing, or when the Olympics happen. because you need to be able to. You don't need to worry too much about the athletes. The athletes aren't necessarily having pizza, but for the journalists that are covering it, for the tourists that are there to see it, they'll probably have these things on standby too, and it would only be in the heavily populated areas, probably closer to where the hotels are. So at that point, there's a lot of things to consider, but again, it's early enough in concept that they can actually start getting this stuff on paper. It's still scary as crap, though. Skynet delivering me my pizza. I can just
that is how Skynet will subjugate us, not through violence, but through food.
But through pizza. Yes, exactly. That's exactly how it will happen. And actually, so this one just barely got up via Twitter. So what will happen to the poor Ninja Turtles when the van drives across the sewer lid they told them to go to? Those poor Ninja Turtles. This is how it gets you. This is how it gets you.
Well, that's the thing. Knowing Donatello, he would probably just hack the thing.
Yeah, exactly. He'd hack the thing, and then it would never work right after that.
Or they would just make their own pizza drone thing. Maybe masquerade it under some sort of app like Uber Eats or Grubhub, where it's like, oh, it's a special drone for this. I mean, honestly, somebody's got to raise money to pay for half the equipment that Donnie makes up, so he may as well put it to use that way. He'll be the one that'll make the pizza drones work.
I'm kind of so you brought this up, but I'm kind of tempted to try out Uber Eats because I just barely saw a lot of my local restaurants and all that. Because guys, I've got another kid on the way, and my wife is very pregnant, and cravings happen. And I have been tempted a couple of times because I see the Uber Eats thing on the drive-through window. Like, wow, we should actually try this. And for the heck of it, just see how well it works. I've never done anything like that. And yes, we are being absolutely city on the matter. I'm having an ADD moment, sorry. But yeah, there you go. So there is the self-driving pizza van. That is going to be a thing in 2020. We can all look forward to that. Coming to a Disneyland near you. Anyway, that's all the stories we have tonight. We're actually running out of time. So let's go ahead and wrap things up for the evening. We hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. We had a little bit of depressing stuff at the beginning, but that's why we rounded things out with the silly to be able to have at least a more positive outlook on 2018. And for those who want to be able to get a hold of us and check out our content, first of all, Alex the Shadow Blazer, how do they do that for you?
Well, you can find me here on YouTube. Shadow Blazer 3000 is my channel where I do produce anime-related content and, of course, the occasional Let's Play. And if you want to follow me on social media and always be up to speed of when a new video goes up, follow me on Twitter at AlexJShort. And just one thing I want to recommend for everybody out there, just given what we've had to talk about tonight in regards to making an asshole out of yourself and having to apologize for it later, I want to recommend this particular video called I'm Super Sorry, produced by Jack's Films here on YouTube. Really funny. Go watch it.
Okay. I'll be watching it at some point. I don't know when, but I'll probably be watching it.
It's 3 minutes. You got no excuse.
I have every excuse. I have kids. I have a kid coming.
With a kid right now. You've got one coming in quite a few months away. But
yeah, yes, I do.
About 8 months.
Stephen Romney, how do people get a hold of you?
Well, you can always find me under the handle Studio Ghost Utah. That is both my handle on YouTube and my handle on Facebook. I'm currently trying to find a better way to have this outro flow more smoothly. But yes, you can find me on Facebook and YouTube under Studio Ghost Utah, and I'm also on Twitter at Romney Reviews. As for this week's Romney's recommendation, which is kind of somber compared to Alex's recommendation, it is actually a webcomic I stumbled across, and the title itself is a dead giveaway of what it's about. It is called Depression Comics with an X. If you wanted to see a webcomic that gives you an accurate depiction of what it's like living with depression in just small bite-sized vignettes, that way you're not being assaulted with so much information all at once, but just want to get an inkling of what it's actually like living with depression, I highly recommend checking out this webcomic. It goes into a lot of detail about a lot of the different ways depression can manifest, and it makes it a lot easier to understand what people suffering with depression go through. So if you want to find it, the website is easy to remember. It is depressioncomics.com.
All right. And if people want to be able to get a hold of me, the best places to do so, first of all, you're on my YouTube channel. So please take a minute and check out my content. I do Let's Play content blogs, reviews. I try out brand new releases. In fact, I am happy to announce, I hope Romney doesn't get mad at me for announcing this, but much like the Shadow Blazer has invaded Drac Tries before on other games, I am happy to announce that on January 26th, Stephen Romney will be invading Drac Tries for our coverage of Dragon Ball FighterZ. So you guys can look forward to that in the coming weeks. And then you can also follow me on social media, first of all, by going to my Twitter, which is at Drac2326, and being able to communicate with me there and find out how I fight depression, which is by having my Christmas tree up for far, far too long. And I don't care. Or you can see just random pictures of my daughter, because I do that too. And then finally, you can also follow my YouTube channel on Facebook by looking up DracLP, and you'll get access to the Let's Plays and all that stuff when they go up, including all the various vlogs that I've done, kind of explaining how 2018 is going to work. And if you want to follow the podcast directly, the first place that we ask that you go to is geekyweek.podomatic.com, or look us up on iTunes or Google Play for Android users and be able to submit to to subscribe to the podcast there and show your support. You can also show your support on social media by looking up on either Twitter or Facebook, GeekyNRO, and you'll be able to get up-to-the-minute information where we're going live, the stuff we'll be talking about. We're also going to try, I'm going to try and make it a thing to try and get the agenda stories in you guys' hands first, so you guys can give us your thoughts on what we'll be discussing. And finally, you can also submit stories to us as well as feedback to geekyweek@gmail.com. And that's going to go ahead and do it for us this evening. We thank you guys so much for your continued support, for you joining us live on the podcast, or simply listening to us on your Monday morning commute. We appreciate you nonetheless. We have so much more in store for the podcast in 2018, so stay tuned for that. And for me, for Alex, and for Romney, we will see you guys next week for even more geek news, reviews, and opinions.